rice, balochi lamb karahi, chicken karahi, keema karahi, and much, much more. It's Mumtaz quality, now even more affordable. Find us at Mackenzie House, Chadwick Street, Leeds. Book your table via WhatsApp on 07399 786 786.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. On the authority of Abu Dharr Jundub ibn Janada and Abu Abd ar-Rahman Mu'adh ibn Jabal, may Allah be pleased with them both, that the Messenger of Allah, may the blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, said, "Fear Allah wherever you are, and follow up a bad deed with a good one, and it will wipe it out, and behave well towards people." It was related by At-Tirmidhi, who said it was a good hadith.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Show for all communities across Peterborough and beyond. Community Matters asks questions that matter to our community life, and my first guest is with me in the studio. It's Ferzana. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And we're here to talk about the Millfield Link Road project. Have I got that name right?
Well, people call it various things. Yeah, you can call it the Millfield Link or the Link.
All right. But what is it about?
This project is about the area. It's about positive, memorable stories. It's about reflection of the area, and it all links back to that big mural on the wall of Link Road opposite Ferzana Medina Mosque.
Okay.
The idea of the programme is to collect as many stories and generate as many conversations as possible about the area, so we can understand and learn about the lives of people in that area who are perhaps still living there, or moved away, or contributed in some way, who have got a story to share and a story to tell. We've got various events coming along just to capture some of those stories in different ways. And the idea is then for us to generate all of those stories, capture them, record them, and then for an artist to then produce something with those stories. Obviously, the mural will also still be restored as well. And then these stories are going to be then kept in the archives at the museum or at the library. And then people will have access to them. So the idea is to capture those stories so we don't ever forget about them, so our future generations can go back and then listen to those stories or remember those stories that perhaps they didn't have a chance to know about, at that time or now.
Now, and this is all built around the idea of the mural. The mural on Link Road is looking very sorry at the moment.
Yep.
It's just faded over many, many years. But I gather the story is that when the artist came to paint it, it was real local people that were included in the picture. Yes,
there was 5 people. I mean, I'm just looking at the picture now that I've got in front of me. There's 4 young boys who I can remember. I remember one of them. He was in my school class, and one of them was my next door neighbour, Kershid. I'm sure he won't mind being mentioned. But yes, and there's other people and there were real people, passerbys, that were then put onto that mural, and they are quite faded, but it's you can still recognise some of them.
So those pictures are going to be restored.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're not talking about new people being painted.
No, I don't think so. No, I think it'd be a shame to paint new people. It'd be nice to capture and remember the original form.
But for other people, what we're trying to do is capture their life stories, their experience of living in this area. Let me come to your own experience. Is this your full memory of all your life?
I always go back to the memories of Cromwell Road and that area because I was born on Cromwell Road.
Oh, gosh.
So my father, Mohammed Sadiq, my late father, he came over mid-60s and I think he lived on Russell Street and Lime Tree Avenue, I think as well. But I remember being at Cromwell Road. Yeah, so a lot of all my childhood is on that road. My friends, my family, we were 8 siblings, and we've all grown up and moved on and things. But we're still very connected to the area because we've still got family here. Whenever I come to the area, I will always look at my dad's house as I go by. It looks very different now, but it's the memories are still the same. everything's changed quite a lot. The road layout's very different. It's busier. There's more cars. There's more people. There's more diversity. It seems to be busy, but yet a still sense of quietness. I can't really explain that. It still feels safe, although it's changed in terms of. I don't know if I'd ever come back and live here now, because I don't live in the area now.
It's different from when you were a child. And
of course,
you look
yes.
at it. I remember going back to a street in London where I grew up until I was 11, and I used to walk along the road of this private little street, all on my own, going to school, age 7 and 8 and 9. And when I went back, I thought, gosh, this street looks so different from what I remembered when I was half the size.
Yeah.
And
everything also seems a lot smaller now that I'm older. I mean, I went to Beecher School on Beach Avenue, and I remember Mr. Shearman, very good head teacher. I remember my teachers, and when I look, some vivid memories. Being able to play, till whatever time. You just had to tell your parents, I'm just going around the corner to play, and you would just play.
Yeah.
And it was just a sense of feeling safe and going and doing club.
Right.
And those kind of things. So there's lots of memories, and I'm hoping that some of my memories will trigger other people's memories.
So where is Hobson's?
Well, there's no Hobson's at the community centre, I think it was called then. I think that's what it was called then. And that was where we are now.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think this bit is the car park bit, and I can't really remember, or was this part of the building? So that's all gone now.
We're now, of course, in the Iqbal Centre.
Yes, we're at the Iqbal Centre.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this is where that was. And I always remember it to be very loud and noisy, because they had the steel bands, and there was also lots of parties on the Friday and the Saturday, and then they also had the carnivals. That they would coordinate, and everybody just got involved, and the youth, the Hobson's staff, then they got involved, and they had floats and things, then just threw children on. Obviously health and safety was a lot different then, but I remember those things.
Now, your sister was interviewed by BBC Radio Cambridgeshire, and she's talked about her memories of this area.
Yes, she did, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to hear about that, and she also mentions Hobson, so I'm glad you've introduced it for us.
Thank you.
Let's come now to this track where Rehanna is interviewed.
I'm one of 8 siblings who lived with my parents at home on Cromwell Road. I remember my childhood to be quite happy. It did have its challenges, but I thought I'd like to talk to my younger sister Rehanna, what memories you have about the area. And I think before that, would you call it Millfield, Gladstone? What would you call it?
I would call it Cromwell Road. I never really identified as being part of Millfield. We lived just around the corner from Beecher School, and it was just Cromwell Road.
I think for me, I thought Gladstone area. I didn't really refer to it as Cromwell Road, and I found it a little bit difficult to kind of call it Millfield area, because that's what I never called it. I just want to take you back a little bit. I'd like to kind of talk to you about your childhood. I played with lots of different children from different backgrounds, down the street, whatever it was.
I remember playing with lots of different types of people. There's one friend that I remember to this day, and her name was Tracy. She used to live where the old Cromwell Road Mosque was. She was the first person that ever gave me a bike, or gave me the chance to ride a bike. This is a clear memory that I have. Tracy walked me back to her house, and right at the back of her garden, she had a few spare bikes, and she said to me, you can have one of these bikes. And then they were quite old and quite used, but nevertheless, that was my first ever experience on a bike. So that was Tracy. In addition to that, one of the places that I remember was Hobson's. Best place ever. And the worst thing that the people that made those decisions at the time did was to get rid of that place. Hobson's was it was just a youth centre, wasn't it? I mean, people had parties there, birthday parties in the big hall. But I would go there every Friday at 4:00, and I would play with the local children. We used to play pool. We used to do arts and crafts activities. They had an amazing play area with one of these enormous monkey bars and monkey rings, and we used to swing from one area to the other. It was amazing. So Hobson's was a key memory that we had at the time. We used to go and play cricket there as well, and all sorts of things. And they had enormous swings. Thinking back to that time now, they seemed enormous to me because I was probably a child, but they might not have been that big. So, it was brilliant. Only ever good things, and it was always safe. I never felt that if I played out on the roads, which I did quite often as a child, I never felt unsafe. I knew the local neighbourhood people would always keep an eye on me, it was just the best time ever. I don't think I'd trade it with a childhood anywhere else. Let me give you one other memory. When you start me talking about memories, I've got lots of those. I remember trying to run away from home once.
I think I do remember that.
Yeah, I think I might have done it a few times, but I remember sitting outside 141 Cromwell Road, and nobody ran after me.
Well, I think it was because we knew you weren't really going anywhere.
And that's true, because I didn't. So I got my Tesco's carrier bag at the time, and I think I put a few bits and bobs in it, and I just sat outside on the pavement. And I must have sat there for a good hour or two, but nothing happened to me. Nobody drove into me or anything like that, thankfully, or nobody kidnapped me or anything like that. And I guess that's testament to the fact that it was a really nice area and it was really safe.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Johanna. I think taking you back now, I think the area is obviously very different now. Do you think it's more diverse now than what it used to be before? What do you think has changed?
The key thing that has changed is the different community groups and the nationalities that live there at the moment. So at the time that I lived there, I remember a couple of other Italian families that lived opposite us. And there was some there was one African Caribbean family that lived opposite us. And if you can call it indigenous, if there is such a term in England. So there were a few indigenous English families that lived there too. And this is me talking about the 80s. So that has really changed, because the predominant ethnic group at the time was Pakistani. But now I think you've got a diverse range of ethnic groups. So I think you've still got your Pakistani families that live there. Because of what happened in the 90s, you've got your Afghan population, you've got your European families that are living there. So I think, yeah, of course, it's inevitable. Each ethnic group brings their own culture, don't they? So it is more diverse in that respect. But yeah, it is different. It doesn't feel like it did when I was growing up as a child.
Oh, thank you to BBC Radio Cambridgeshire for that little clip. Now, was that you and Rahana?
Yeah, I did a small piece of a residency with BBC Radio Cambridgeshire, and that was part of that.
Well, that was wonderful. So this is about memories, and I could see your eyes lighting up at all the memories that you know so well. And you're trying to collect memories from other people. How will you go about that?
We've already started doing that. So we've got 10 trained collectors who have been trained by a historian. I can't really remember now the lady's name, but she came down from Leicestershire and she trained 10 of our collectors. These collectors have got dictaphones and they are going around recording stories from people that they might know of, or people that we have referred to them. Now, if anybody else wants to share a story, they can email myself and I'll give you the number at the end of the show, the email address, and then they can let us know and we will organise that. The other ways that we're doing that is that we've got various events, such as we've got a Speak Up Millfield event. That's on the 29th of February from 4 to 7. And that's on...
that's this coming Saturday.
That's this coming Saturday.
From 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock.
Yes. And that will be at the Fitz... I'm just going to have to refer to this.
We're just checking where it's going to be.
Yeah,
held.
I just want to make sure. That will be the Orion Hub at the Fitzwilliam Street. But there's more details of that on our... Peterborough Presents website, and it's all over Facebook. It's been plastered everywhere, and that's a poetry event. So that gives people the opportunity to share a memory or a story in a poetry form, or the opportunity to share something. So that's that event. Yep. I'm involved in a couple of events with some local groups where we are giving various people the opportunity to share a story. So we will record those stories, and I will have an illustrator that will then produce something with those stories. So she will initially take down some main words from.
So it's not just the recorded voice.
No.
It's many different ways that
Yes.
people can contribute.
Yeah, that's because I don't think everybody wants their voices recorded,
Yeah.
and I think it'd be nice to capture them in a different form.
That would be wonderful.
And tell a story.
Now, I want to look at the diversity that the area now has, that going back to your childhood, it was very much more the Pakistani, the Kashmiri community that was here. For example, I know that there are over 40 different languages spoken in the Beaches School. It is an incredibly diverse area,
Yeah.
and it should be richer for that, with all the mix of cultures that we have, and people living safely and peaceably, by and large, with one another as neighbours, and that's really good to say.
Yeah.
But people are still coming here from abroad, and one of them we're going to hear from in our next clip is Fash. Yeah.
Yeah, Fash Rofi, he's a colleague of mine, actually. My normal day job, I work for Cambridgeshire Fire and Rescue Service. And Fash is a very good colleague, and he's got a really interesting story to tell us when he arrived into the country in Peterborough.
Okay, well, let's turn to this clip now. This is again from With Thanks to BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
But I want to introduce you to someone that I work with at the local fire station, at the moment based on Dogsthorpe Road, for Cambridgeshire Fire and Rescue Service. Fash came over to this country on a boat?
No, he wasn't actually on a boat to start with. So I left my country of birth in 1979. There was a revolution. There was tension between countries. They eventually end up going to war. So he was initially trying to get out by any means, really. The life is not the same as a European standard country. It's people try to get out by any means they can. So mine was by a series of flights. There was traveling by car, walking in between. So it was a series of journeys. When you're trying to get out of a war zone, you don't set out to go to anywhere particular. You start your journey and see where it goes, and you react to it, just trying to survive by that. People don't leave their place of birth trying to get across to somewhere for any other reason than they just want to make a life for themselves. They want to work hard, they want to earn a living, and they want to grow as human beings.
Who did you come over with? Did you come over with family?
Okay, so no, a part of the journey was by myself. My family couldn't get out of the country because of the restriction that there was. I had a brother that lived in this country well before that time. He sort of settled here, and his wife's family sort of sponsored me here. So they helped me once I got across. They helped me to sort of, they gave me somewhere to live. They sponsored me and sort of made me part of their family. So I was lucky to have them.
Was it quite frightening to be on your own?
It's not, because when you're trying to get away, the frightening thing is staying where you are. And younger you are, the less perception of danger you have. So you haven't learned the scariness is a learned skill. So by then you haven't really developed. You don't know what danger is. And when you look back and you see what awaits you, then anything is better than going back. I was about 13 at the time.
Yeah, I didn't realise how young you were. For some reason, I thought you were older than that. What about your parents?
Okay, so my mother unfortunately died when I was very, very young. My father brought me up. I had 4 lovely sisters and a brother. They all chipped in and helped out as well. It was great, but I was the youngest at time, apart from one sister. And at the time, the boys were in main danger of having to go and do national service, go and fight in a regional conflict, and there was no age limit to that, so you could go at any age. They tried to get me out, and I can only look back and feel for what my father had to feel to actually let me go and send me somewhere safe, or what deemed to be safer than where I was.
Okay, so bringing you back to when you got here, I'm quite interested to know, did you come straight to Peterborough?
Yep. So as I landed here, I made my way to Peterborough. So my brother's family were in Peterborough. So they sponsored me. They gave me a place to live. Within a couple of days, I started school. I couldn't speak any English, but at that time, there was no facility for anybody to have extra sort of language skills or having a support teacher. Yes, I went to school, and it was just sitting in back of a class doing every subject that everybody else does: maths, English, geography, chemistry. It was very difficult because I wasn't quite sure what been talked about or what I've been asked to do. Tend to do better at maths because it's a universal language. Once you know numbers and science, you tend to do well with that. But yeah, so I came straight to Peterborough. I went to St Paul's School, better known as Lincoln Road School, which is right in the heart of Millfield.
Yeah, then you built a life here. Knowing already some of your background and what you've talked about, I'm really interested to know that the occupation that you're in now and how you've got to where you've got to, it's now about keeping people safe and saving lives. How would you describe that area as, where you live at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very diverse area. It's where many different communities live and work together. I think it's they bring a lot into the area. I mean, when you just walk down the street and you see the variety of different cuisines and different sort of community centres, I think it's great to have many different sort of communities living and working together. What I always find really nice about the area is that I've always been welcomed. Wherever I've gone into a shop on the street, I've always been welcomed there, and I've grown around there, and I know people from many different communities, and it's home to me. It's like being at home, walking down the street, come across many people that I went to school with, people that I helped at some stage during my career, or people that have helped me during my school or when I finished that and started working.
Well, thank you again to BBC Radio Cambridgeshire for that recording and interview. Anything else you want to add about Farsh?
I think listening to that again, I think it just helps you think about when people do arrive into this country, we don't always know the story why. We just think people want to come here and forget there is a story before that. Sure. A journey started somewhere else. So when you think about Farsh, I do really think, you know, he was just, his father was protecting him. And he's done a really good job of it. And Farsh is now saving other people's lives by working as a firefighter. Oh,
that's wonderful indeed. Thank you. Now, back to our Collecting the Stories and the Millfield Link project. How can people get involved, and where can they find out more information?
There's if people want to go onto the Peterborough Presents Facebook page or the website, they'll find lots. Peterborough Presents. Okay, yeah. There's lots of information on their website about all the things that are coming up. In the next few weeks. You can also contact my colleague's email I'm going to give, if that's okay. Katie, spelled as KATY Hawkins, HAWKINS @vivacity.org. To get in touch, if you want to be involved in anything that we're doing, I can give you more information myself. Or if you want to share your story, we'll be happy to collect those stories.
What about people who might have moved in more recently?
It doesn't matter how, you could have moved in 2 days ago and you might have a story to tell. Okay. The fact is that it's about this area, and it's about how our lives and our journeys have kind of evolved and have contributed to the area. And I think we need to celebrate the positive stories, and we don't often get very good feedback and acknowledgement of the area. And there's so many positives, there's so many good stories and memories to tell and to hear and to cherish. And why not take the opportunity? Because our generations to follow will want to know how we lived our lives and where our journey started from.
Now, I know that all of the recordings and so on is going to be safeguarded in the museum archives.
Yes.
But is there going to be some sort of public display or gathering or event when...
Yes, I mean, there's a meal coming up as well, and that's in March. It's a community meal, and that's food from across the globe. So that's to celebrate the different ethnicities, but we've got food from certain parts of the country where people have moved into the area, and it's a celebration event. And obviously we will have an artist that will produce something once we've got all these stories collated, and then obviously we will have that mural. But this isn't the end of this project. There will be other things and other opportunities, I imagine.
And I think we want to hear more about the Link Road project and the other opportunities come up as they come up. Will you come back and
I can
share?
definitely come back, because once I start talking, it's hard for me to stop. So I would like a bit more time at some point.
You'd be most welcome, Ferzana, for explaining the Millfield Link Road project and those wonderful stories that you are capturing for us all. And thank you to BBC Radio Cambridgeshire for those 2 interview clips. So do stay tuned, as after the short break we're going to hear about a growing need all across Peterborough, and it's being met by a growing charitable effort. It's all about Food Bank, the phenomena of Food Bank. Speak to you shortly.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Are you looking to kickstart a career in health and social care? If you're over the age of 18 and currently in receipt of an in or out of work benefit, the Health and Care Sector Work Academy is offering you the chance to gain a qualification for free. There's plenty of support available, as we can cover childcare and travel costs, and mentoring after the course has finished to help you into employment or further learning. Get in touch with us on 0800 310 1160 to join one of our courses and learn more about what we have to offer. Peterborough has a fresh new restaurant. Big Mouth on Lincoln Road is now open. Fantastic fresh food, pizzas, gourmet burgers, fried chicken, grilled chicken, wraps and sides. Mouth-watering food at great prices. Come and experience the freshness and taste of our amazing food. On a lunch break, try our Big Mouth lunch special menu from 12 to 4. Fancy our Hot Mouth Big Burger or our Big Mouth special pizza? Try us and taste the difference. Eat in, take away or order online at getbigmouth.co.uk for delivery with Just Eat and Deliveroo. We cater for birthday parties, family bookings and events. Follow Big Mouth Lads on Facebook and Instagram. Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road, Peterborough, PE1 2PF. Call 01733 20 10 20. We're open 12 till late every day.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shabina here. Has your child had their flu vaccination this year? All primary school-aged children are entitled to the flu vaccine in their schools, helping to protect you and all the family against flu, which can make vulnerable people very ill. Call the school immunisations team on 0300 555 5055 if you'd like your child to get protected.
In the mood for some authentic Desi food? Try Desi Restaurant on Lincoln Road. Start your day right with our Desi breakfast. Every day from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Halva puri, channa, nihari, paya, paratha and omelette. Need a tasty lunch? Every day 1 to 4 p.m. we've got fast food, pizzas, kebab sandwiches, tandoori dishes, balti dishes, biryanis and much more. We're also open every evening 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. Try our Desi Tawa special or our fresh handi, 1 kg chicken or lamb on the bone, cooked to order. Eat in, take away or free delivery. Visit desirestaurant.co.uk to view the full menu and order online. 60-seat capacity and a private function room. Catering service also available. Desi Restaurant, 298 Lincoln Road, Peterborough, PE1 2ND. Call us now on 555 795.
कोई रत्तियां कमीज़ानी लमाना मामा मिठिया में चीज आनी।
मेरा नाम मुकद्दस है और कोट मेरा घर है और ये मेरे लिए किसी जन्नत से कम नहीं। हमारे भी कुछ ख्वाब हैं जिनकी ताबीर को हमें पाना है।
आइए इन बच्चों के ताबनाक मुस्तकबिल के लिए अपना हिस्सा डालिए। अपनी ज़कात, सदकात, खैरात और इमदाद कोट को दीजिए।
UK number 0300 123 7774. Website court.org.uk.
This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio, broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
And this is Adrian Holdstock presenting Community Matters Live, the radio show for all communities in Peterborough and beyond. We're also on salamradio.co.uk. And my previous guest, Ferzana, wanted me to remind you that you can leave a message on Salam Radio and they will get it to Ferzana. We will do that for you. And that was all about the Millfield link. But now, here are the two guests with me in the studio. Helena, the Reverend Helena.
Hello.
And Sally.
Hello, Adrian.
Hello, welcome. You're here to talk about Food Bank.
We are.
So what is Peterborough Food Bank and how are you both involved?
Well, Peterborough Food Bank was set up about 7 years ago as part of the Trussell Trust project to help people in crisis, basically, because food poverty has become endemic, as sadly we all know. And originally it was envisaged as a 3-year project. But we soon realised that actually it was going to be a lot more than that, and it has gained momentum. And in fact, last year we saw an increase of 50% in people coming to us for help. We don't receive any government funding. We are totally reliant on the generosity of the general public for any donations we receive. But also we are supported by the local Peterborough churches, 7 of whom host our food banks. And Helena is the assisting curate at the Church of the Holy Spirit in Bretton. And that's where we met because I coordinate the Bretton Food Bank.
And that's in the shopping centre?
It's in the Cresset Centre in Bretton.
The Cresset Centre, yes.
We like to think of ourselves as good friends of the food bank as we host it and support it and help to provide some of the volunteers. And we hope we provide a warm atmosphere for the food bank itself, but also for the guests coming in need of food.
Gosh. How long has that been happening there?
I'm not sure exactly when it was set up. At least 4 years. I've been there 4 years, and it's been going longer than that.
Yes.
Gosh,
so,
right.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you were surprised after 3 years you still needed to offer Food Bank. What's going on? What's the cause?
Well, I think unfortunately our economic situation in this country is pretty dire at the moment. I mean, it's a combination of factors, but the job market is very difficult. One of the biggest contributors to clients coming to see us is, well, obviously there is unemployment itself, but also these awful 0 hours contracts and variable hours contracts and people working for agencies. So, for example, for 2, 3, 4 weeks, they have a decent amount of hours, so the wage packet at the end of the week is good and they can afford everything that they need to cover. The next 2, 3 weeks, they don't get as many hours. They don't get a sufficient pay packet at the end of the week. So they then have this incredibly difficult decision to make. Do we pay the rent and keep a roof over our heads? Do we pay the utility bills and keep ourselves warm, have electricity? Or do we put food on the table? Now, that's bad enough if you are an individual, a single person. If you have a family, and we're talking about a family with children, that is a heartbreaking decision to have to make, and that's why people come to us. Nobody wants to come to a food bank at the end of the day. Many people find it embarrassing and humiliating. The best we can do, in addition to giving them the wherewithal for a few meals, is to try and make it as gentle a procedure as possible to welcome them, make them feel more comfortable about it, but also an incredibly important part of what we do is the signposting. Giving them information about where else they can get constructive help to aid them in their situation.
What would you say to the sceptics who suggest that because of Food Bank, more people are coming to ask for free food.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is a minority element where that might happen, but there is a structure in place whereby they have to be referred to us first and foremost by an agency, such as the Job Centre, the YMCA, sometimes Bernardo's for children, families with children, and so on. And there is a criterion which states that they can only have a maximum of 4 vouchers in a 6-month period. And that's obviously recorded. So because we recognise that also it's all too easy for people to start relying on us, and therefore it becomes a habit, if you like, and we can't allow that to happen because we simply don't have enough food to go round. So, yeah.
So the agencies are the first way of perhaps filtering the genuine need.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then they turn up. Are you on duty at Food Bank?
I'm not an official volunteer. I'm a kind of hanger around.
A very welcome one as well, I might say.
You know, to join in and talk to people if I am around. And I think I would like to add to what you said, Sally, because I've certainly noticed over the 4 years another significant change in society, which has been the introduction of universal credit.
Yes, absolutely.
And the impact of that on the flow of people's income. Particularly if you're a working person on universal credit, because the system is always behind your wage packet. And so you can get these gaps in the flow of income for people. And we've really seen an increase in people being affected by that and needing to use the food bank. So, and I think the other thing that I've really seen a big rise in over the 4 years is homeless people.
Yes.
Using the food bank.
Right.
I mean, they have to say that there are charities, obviously, specifically to help the homeless. And although we are not a specifically homeless charity, obviously we do have people coming to us who are homeless. And it is very sad, because another point I would make is...
So we're just going to break for prayer time.
Yes.
And then we'll come back and pick up those points.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Maghrib Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله.
This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
And we're back live in the studio on Community Matters with Sally and Helena talking about Food Bank. Now, where did we get to, Sally?
We were just talking about the increase in homelessness, weren't we? And I think one of the things that perhaps people don't realise is that, because Helena was just talking about universal credit, you need to have a postal address in order to, benefit from benefits, from certain benefits. You can't actually apply for them if you don't have a postal address. So it's a sort of chicken and egg situation. It's very difficult to get yourself off the street. And of course, we have this wonderful charity, Safer Off the Streets, a community project. And
Safer
also
Off the Streets, Peterborough.
Safer Off the Streets, Peterborough, and also the Garden House and the Light Project that do wonderful work.
Coordinating a lot of effort from a lot of different people and organisations.
Yes,
it's
and
wonderful.
I think it's important that we do all talk to each other so that we can help each other and those people that are being helped as much as possible.
Now, the client experience. You mentioned the clients, or are they guests? But
we officially refer to them as clients.
Officially
I think it shows a bit of respect, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Yes.
Okay. Their experience. They go to an outlet where they can get a voucher. It might be Citizens Advice or Bernardo's or even schools. I think some schools
that's correct.
can do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
They turn up at a food bank. What can they expect?
Well, I hope a very warm welcome for a start, because some people are quite understandably feeling very humiliated. They don't want to be there. So the first thing is to welcome them in, offer them a cup of tea and the chance to sit down and talk to us within a non-judgmental environment, because I think all too often they are judged. When they're going for screenings for universal credit or whatever it might be, even to get the food bank voucher in the first place, there will have been a certain element that they're being judged in some way. So we try not to be judgmental at all, and then give them as much information as we can to help them go forward within their specific situation.
The signposting.
That's the signposting. But, this befriending element, I think, is very important because I think one thing that the government are guilty of is that they tend to think of statistics, and they almost forget that every single one of those statistics is an individual human being in crisis. And that's what we see, is the individuals coming through our door.
So in the midst of tea and biscuits and signposting, there's the food itself.
There is the food itself.
And what are they entitled to?
It's a nominal 3 days worth of food. If you are a single person, we have various picking lists actually that ensure that everybody gets the same deal, So for a single person, a couple or a family with children, they get a set amount of different items of food to give them what we hope will be at least 3 days worth of meals.
And they go away reassured. Perhaps.
I hope so. Yes, I hope so.
With a bit of a smile on their face.
And I have to say that being within Holy Spirit is brilliant, because it is just people have remarked on the fact that it's such a friendly environment. We have this lovely meet and greet area, and then of course we have the worship area as well if we want to take people through there for just a quiet prayer or just to sit in contemplation. So it's a lovely place to be.
Helena, you must have met and chatted to some of these folk.
I have actually, and you know, it's right that some of them do actually want some spiritual support, not just physical support for their food needs, but they need some spiritual food. So we may pray with them specifically. We also like to surround the food bank with sort of in a spiritual casing, if you like. So on a Sunday, some of the donations that have been left at church, there's too many for them all to go to the altar, but we take a representative sample and place them on the altar with the gifts of money to the church, so that those gifts to the food bank are blessed. And that seems really important to us. And I think about 2 to 3 years ago, we decided to offer a service of Holy Communion straight after the food bank, to actually have somewhere where we could specifically pray through the needs that had come through the food bank on that morning. And, you know, different days have different characteristics. Some days the volunteers will say, we've just had so many people with mental health problems today, so we can wrap that up in prayer at our service of Holy Communion. Or it might be, it's all been single young men today, and we can think and pray through the plight of young men who are struggling to feed themselves. Often, though, that is a group that is quite hidden in society. A lot of single young men are sofa surfing and don't really have a permanent place to live. They're not sort of homeless in the sense that most people think of homeless.
They're not actually on the street, but they are homeless.
But they are homeless.
Yes, they are homeless.
And they're dependent, you know, they're dependent in so many different ways on the kindness of others.
Is there any particular family or story that you've encountered that makes you think, you know, I'm so glad that Food Bank is here?
Well, I had the opportunity last November to write a poem, actually. So I participated in the Syntax Poetry Festival in Peterborough, and they awarded me a residency at the food bank at Holy Spirit Church. And the idea was that I was paid, actually, to be there. So, and I think that's important. I didn't keep the money myself.
I'm just going to say, no, she didn't.
But I think it's important because it was actually really honouring the value of having a poet in residence at the food bank.
Yeah.
And so I spent a morning there in a very sort of focused way, rather than sitting and chatting as I would normally do. I was sitting and chatting with the thought of, I now have to produce something for the poetry festival. And I sort of recorded in my notebook many stories, but 3 really spoke to me. Because I think we ask ourselves, how do people end up in this need? What are the roots? And often they go back a very long way. So there was a woman who perhaps was about late 30s, and the roots of her mental health problems went back to finding her grandmother had killed herself in her flat, and that she was a child and she'd let herself in. And she'd struggled with her mental health from that point, and had descended into addiction all the time, trying to cope without support. And she'd had support to deal with her addiction. She was now in a flat, she was clean. And the food bank was there to help her, you know, part of the support structure, to help her rebuild her life, and not to get into a struggle over food that might lead her to do some of the things she used to do to try to cope. So that was a story that really spoke to me. Another story was a man who had been living on the streets and had found it a very dangerous place to be. A lot of violence against homeless people on the streets. So he'd chosen to live on a riverbank in Peterborough until all those people that he was trying to flee from on the Saturday night, who were drunk and getting violent in town, realised they could go up the riverbank and set fire to his tent. And so I had a long conversation with him about how, and what he was sick of was a society that really glorified success in terms of possessions, And what he really wanted was a different way of living, and he wanted to live close to nature. And he didn't mind living on a riverbank in a tent. But he did mind his home being torched.
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
But I mean, I also have a very short story about.
Thank you.
Sort of with a happy ending, should we say,
right.
About someone who's homeless. He was an ex-serviceman. As sadly, there are a lot of ex-servicemen who end up in a homeless situation, because if you've been in the forces since you left school and you've been in for a number of years, possibly decades, by the time you come out, you are actually institutionalised. You haven't had to think about your rent, about where your next meal's coming from. You haven't had to think about your laundry. Everything is done for you. But on top of that, you may well have seen active service and left with PTSD or at least some form of mental health issue. And so when they come out, it's very difficult for them to take on the responsibility of fending for themselves, which sounds like a very basic thing, but actually it's quite complex, quite layered. He was living also in a tent, but in the Bretton Centre. And he first came into us, it was in the winter, he was very cold, very dishevelled. We gave him a hot drink, and he didn't really want to talk very much. But I said to him, even if you don't come back to us with a voucher for food, please always feel that you can come back in, have a hot drink and get warm and have a chat. And over the next few weeks, that's exactly what he did. And he started to open up, and he used to tell us these wonderful stories. I'm sure they were slightly embellished, but it didn't matter because we loved hearing them, and he certainly enjoyed telling them. And he then came in one day, and he looked very smart. Somebody had given him this wonderful camel coat. He'd had a haircut, his beard was trimmed, and he said, "Ladies, I've got some news." He said, "The good news is they found me somewhere to live, but the bad news is it's over the other side of town, so I won't be able to come in for a coffee and a chat anymore." But he said, "I just wanted to thank you for your kindness, because it made me think about things in a different way and start believing in myself again." And I thought, what a wonderful thing to say.
Absolutely.
But that is absolutely why we're there, as well as just doling out a tin of beans, you know.
Sure.
It's, yeah, definitely
And
that.
actually, you do have in the food bank in Peterborough volunteers who had been clients before.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful that you feel so positive about the help you received. You want to actually offer that to others.
Indeed. Now, I have some statistics here. You help over 9,000 people a year.
That's right.
You fed 9,201 people with 63 tonnes of food donated.
Absolutely.
Including 15 tonnes given out over Christmas.
Yeah.
So what's the machinery behind the scenes that helps it all work?
Right. Well, for a start, as I say, the generosity of the general public, that's what we rely on. So they can donate either in the supermarket drop boxes, so Tesco, Sainsbury's, the Co-op. They all have the boxes where you can drop a tin in on your way out.
Yes, as you go out.
A lot of churches, Holy Spirit being one, do congregational collections for us of food, which is then picked up as the drop boxes are by our van. Schools as well do, and local businesses do office collections for us. And it all comes in, whatever the donation comes into our central warehouse, where it's sorted into categories, and every single item has to be date checked to make sure that it's in date, and the shortest date stuff goes out first. We, as centre supervisors, put our requisition in each week for the amount of food that we need to replenish our shelves, and that then comes out to us. Everything that goes into the warehouse is weighed in. Everything that comes out to us is weighed out, and that's how we know how many tonnes we've had in, how many tonnes we've had out. And last year, for the first time, we actually gave out more food than we had in donations, which sounds as though it's an impossible thing, but in the past years, we've always had slight excess in terms of the amount we've had in over the amount we gave out, so we built up a reserve. But we still, last year, had to spend a lot of money going out and buying more stock, more food.
Gosh.
So, it's always it's an uphill battle.
It is. But now, just a final message for the volunteers that you know. What would you like to share with them, Helena? Just...
with the volunteers at the food bank.
Yes.
I think our gratitude and thanks, part of the mission of the church is, of course, to tend to the needs of the poor. And we are really pleased to partner with the community, anyone in the community, to do that.
Anyone in the community can become, of any faith or no faith, can become a volunteer.
Anyone of goodwill who recognises the plight of the poor in this city and wants to do something about will be welcomed with open arms.
And I just very quickly want to thank you, because without their support we couldn't do what we do.
Well, thank you both. Helena, the Reverend Helena from Holy Spirit, Breton, and Sally, who's the food bank coordinator that meets at Holy Spirit,
That's
Breton.
right, yes.
Thank you so
One
very
of 7,
much.
I should say. 7 in Peterborough. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, many thanks to my earlier guest, Ferzana, and the Millfield Link Road project. So next week, we're hearing about the magazine Peterborough Matters, and also about a very important other cause of general poverty, poor well-being and ill health, fuel poverty. That's all we have time for on Community Matters tonight. You are the community that matters, wherever you are. So live in peace and harmony. Salam, shalom, namaste, and the peace of God to you all. Good night.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.